I looked at the plan for the class and remember that I had asked all of you to go look ahead and see what how you wanted to proceed through the class. And so for looking at pixie dust today that's due, and we're a lot of times what I'll do is I'll skip this tornado thing and I'll do the explosions next. But I think today I want to talk about tornadoes. And I forget where I put it. There was I think that I added a flag waving into this class. It's not part of the actual build. And so we'll do that one next. Today we'll start tornadoes today. So we'll critique the pixie dust, take a break, and then we'll start the tornadoes, and then we'll do the explosion, the flag and the explosions next, right there. All right, is that okay with everybody? Sound like a plan? Oh yeah, I added this last night. This came from one of the things that's in my special effects board, one of the posts that's in that board. And I think it's really interesting to see just a lot of what we're going to do in the class here, just located all in one place. And I think that I might have even said that I was sorry that some of the images are sideways. It's just somebody's blog. But I think that it's really interesting to look at static electricity frame by frame, or to look at shattering glass. And here's like a little thing on pixie dust, like we already were doing that today. It's like everything we just talked about. And, you know, again, I'm sorry some of them are sideways, but I put that in there last night. All right, pixie dust. All right, so I think we went through a couple of these last week, and remember, you're allowed to submit different versions. All right, this is Fatima. Fatima, did I say your name correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. We saw this one last week. Is there a new version?
We can't see your screen.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I said we can't see your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where's the play button? Oh, okay. All right, yeah, I think we looked at this one last week, right?
Yeah, this is the old one. This is the one for last week. I submitted another one yesterday.
Yesterday?
Yeah. You can find it by the end of the discussion.
Where did you put it?
In the same discussion topic.
Oh, this might be down further, right?
Yeah.
Down here. Okay. I understand. Okay, so so Fernando, we already saw this one from last week, right? That was posted on the 19th. Matt, so can you edit your own posts?
Yeah, I just added the second video to the same post, so it'll be easy to find.
So that's an option for everybody, is that as long as you can edit your own posts, can you delete a file that you've already submitted?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't see why not. If you can edit the post, I think so.
Right.
As
So,
long as the discussion topic itself is still open, you can
Right.
edit and delete as you please.
right. So you could just edit your own post, but that's okay. We'll just go straight through here. So Fatima, we'll pick you up in just a moment. All right. So this is Matt. Oops, sorry, everybody. Okay, this is crazy good, right? Clap for Matt. Hands for Matt, everybody. I think it's a bit fast. And so let's just take a look at it one more time. You know, this is crazy, wonderful. I think there's even an ability for me to like add to the spring show here somewhere, like right here. I can just say add to the spring show. There we go. That's the first submission to the spring show. Oops, add to the spring show. So so one thing that you might want to try, Matt, is how many layers are you working with in Toon Boom?
Well, I have a bunch of junk layers that are like for guides, but I think in the video there's like 4 maybe.
That's good, because what you can do is that this is our tornado, right? Is that if you like, we only have a few layers here. You could just touch any particular frame and then add a plus sign way off to the right side on the keyboard and just hit it once. And then that adds a frame to everything. And you can try going and hitting all of your frames for each layer and adding a frame.
So
Right?
just
Or you can look at
put it all on 2s.
Or you could put it all on. So if you're on 1s, you could put it all on 2s. Or you could take this part when it's coming in and add that on 2s. And then when it's coming around this corner, go ahead and leave it on 1s. And then so vary up your timing a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think the whole thing is just moving a little too fast, that's all. If you're interested in improving it just a little bit, I think that this purple glow, I think that you could take down the transparency just a little bit, because I think that it's looking like a trail, a contrail, rather than the pixie dust would want to have more of a spread out. And I think that you've got it. I think that you've got the pixie dust spreading out and you've got all of this stuff in there. But I think that you just contained the smoke, right? The quote unquote, the smoke, just a little bit too much so that it looks like smoke instead of pixie dust. Especially like right in here, there's a really strong shape. And I think that it should be more nebulous. It should be more random. So if you did put a transparency node on there, take the purple and the lavender down just a little bit. That might help. You're still going to get that worm. You're still going to get that little caterpillar look in there. And then if you really wanted to, you could go back in and add just a bunch of pixie dust in this area right here. Right here. And it would be really great if you could change the transparency over a distance.
Yeah, that would be nice. It's not that easy as it turns out.
When you're creating the animation frame by frame, that's what you're doing when you're actually doing the special effects. Like, oh, I don't want the brushwork to be as dense so far away from where the orb starts. So you just don't paint it. You just don't animate it at all. It would be really great if there was a kneaded eraser brush. You know what I mean? So that you could just kind of dapple out some of this stuff, because it's nice. The whole thing is really great, but I think that it could use a little finesse, just a little polish. I think it's wonderful, but I think it could just use a little bit in there. All right, once again, hands for Matt, everybody. All right, I'm making notes here. Okay, let's continue. So this is Charlie, and that was from last week. Okay, Charlie, this is really wonderful. Just without looking at it again, I think that you could use more magic. You could use more sparkles, more pixie dust. I think you've got it all there. More pixie dust and more pixie dust behind
Trail.
it. Like following in the trail, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you could see, I can see it, I can feel it. It's really good. I like your sense of timing. That little thing right there, that spin over, that's really great. So yeah, I think that you could add just a little more sparkles.
Okay.
And you could let it linger just a little bit behind. Let's do this too. Let's add to the spring show. And I think that one thing to put it into the oh my God category is that right here, right when it's hovering right here, I think that you could hold it for like at least 36 frames, a second and a half.
Okay.
Just let it go and let the sparkles just drip like they were welding sparks. Have you ever seen somebody like,
Yeah.
you know,
I think
that's the
Matt even
same
did
kind
it
of
too.
thing. I think that in my eye, there was the complete and total fascination with the Netflix series called Peaky Blinders. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's right between World War I and World War II in Birmingham, England. And it's about the gang called the Peaky Blinders. It stars Cillian Murphy. There's a whole bunch of people in there. Sam Neill, and it's really great. It's really R-rated half the time with the blood and the murder and everything. But once in a while, they'll walk through the forges of Birmingham, and they're like, you know, it's just they're forging metal. But for some reason, the director's like, as Cillian Murphy, as Thomas Shelby is walking down the cobblestone streets, all of a sudden there'll be this like huge spray of burning metal, welding metal pixie dust. It's like, oh, it's just so great, and no one on the set flinches either. So it's really great. Yeah, I think you could use a little bit of that right there. Yeah, and then maybe just a little bit more of the pixie dust, but this is really great. Once again, hands for Charlie. Clap, please. You could either do this or you can use the little clap in the Zoom. Gabby. Okay, so you responded to our critique from last week. Remember that I was suggesting that the volume of the cloud was following just too closely, and it wasn't disappearing fast enough. It wasn't spreading out as much as it should be. I think you controlled that a little bit, but I think that it still hugs just a little bit too much behind it. I think that you could repair this by just taking down the opacity. Just change the transparency on your initial cloud to something like 40 or 35%, And then that'll focus on more of the pixie dust stuff itself. Timing looks good. The aesthetics look good. Yeah, I think that it's just looking too much like an animal's tail. Just the blue and the lavender, that is. The pixie dust stuff is good. Just if you want to improve it, just go back in there and take the transparency down on your initial cloud pass. That looks really great. Thank you, Gabby, everybody. Gabby. Simran.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, what am I going to say? Matt, what's the first thing I'm going to say?
Mm,
I'm gonna say pixie dust.
probably something about worms.
Yeah. You know, you want to avoid the worm. Avoid the worm. I want to put that like on neon letters on the class wall behind me. Avoid the worm. And anyone else is going to come into the class. What the heck does that mean? Yeah, I think that we do this, and I as an effects animator, I always approach a shot when I'm doing pixie dust, and I've done pixie dust probably 8 times professionally in my life. Just pixie dust by itself. You always approach it with this little cloud. Always, you draw the cloud in there, and you make sure that the placement is correct and the speed is correct. But then you in the 2D world, if we were using paper on pencil on paper, then you just use that as a guide. And the first couple of 3 or 4 times that I taught this class, I realized that you were all relying way too heavily on the guide and not so much on the pixie dust. And so the 4th time that I ran the class, I like avoided the cloud altogether. And then I think that what happened is that you were all overwhelmed with the idea of where the pixie dust goes, how much to draw, orienting your screen in Toon Boom so that you're rotating your stage and learning Toon Boom all at the same time, and it was almost completely undaunting. But remember that I started this out. The very first thing we did was draw the arc. We drew the orb, timing it out, and I said, you know, that's not quite working. We changed the timing on the orb completely, and then we put the cloud behind it. And then I rendered a movie, and I said, oh, it's moving way too fast. And remember, that was from my demo. And then I slowed it down by half, and it was a little better. And I was trying to parse out the idea of what was causing the timing differential. And then I reminded everyone that that cloud was just meant to be there as a guide. So Simran, I think that there's a couple of things that you can do to improve this. First of all, you could keep your transparency and your blur node on it and just tone those down a little bit. Tone those down a lot, almost to the point where it's like just a faint kiss of special effects. Your timing is fine, the position is fine. I think that because of the worm, the quote unquote worm, that we don't see all the pixie dust. So you could improve that just by toning down the cloud. And then you might see that once you've taken it down to 11 or 14% transparency, that you don't have enough pixie dust. If you're working at 1920 by 1080, which is the full 4K, almost HD, that's HD, that's not 4K, that you might need to do more pixie dust. It's good, but I think that you want to avoid the worm.
Okay, got it.
Simran, avoid the worm.
Got it.
Avoid the worm. All right, so this is Fatima, this is your new one, okay. All right, I think that you need more colors. You know, I certainly like the green and the white on black. But I think that you could use some complementary colors in there, some analogous colors for sure. So that's like the first thing that I would do is make sure, and I think I said that in my lectures and my demo, is that when you're doing this, be an artist. You know, look at your color wheel, go complementary, go triadic, go analogous, and use as many colors as you think you would like in there on 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 different passes. And every time you do a pass, use a different color so that you could always go back in and change it. It's really easy in Toon Boom. So there's a couple of things just about this that you might want to address. I think that the idea of having the pixie dust be in a completely straight line like this is counterintuitive to the idea of random. You know, I like this splay, I like this spread out here, but I think that you were trying to get the pixie dust away from the spread out of the cloud that you were drawing. And I worry that what we're trying to do is we're trying to draw magic. And I can see that you're using your brush. I can see that you're using that pastel brush in Toon Boom. And that's always like a modern digital critique of anything that you're drawing. It's like, is the thing that you're drawing, the thing that you're drawing digitally, does it look like a digital paintbrush in Photoshop? Or does it have that look of the stylus on the Wacom tablet or the Cintiq screen? You want to make it look like magic. So first of all, go back in and take your transparency down, put a blur on it. You might even get the blur to be crazy. Like, you know, go back and review the notes. Just take the blur and just like make the blur like 3 or 4 pixels, and that'll help you get rid of that little brush look. The stuff that you're playing with the shapes is a little much, and then occasionally in a few places there's like a little stutter, like right there and right there. Remember what we said when we were doing pixie dust about no pieces of pixie dust can be in the same place or your animation will stop. I'm trying to figure out, you know, without looking at your screen, I'm trying to guess. What you may have is a differential in timing, where you might have had your whole thing on ones, your whole timeline on ones, and then you switched to twos, or you had it on twos and then something switched to 4. Just make sure that your timing is pretty even, or that, like right there, I think that you have actually a couple of blank frames. Like right, let me see if I can go frame by frame. I think that what you might have tried to do is repair it. I'm looking for, it looked like there was a couple of blank frames in there. I'm not sure if this video engine is working correctly. All right, and then the other thing is that occasionally I have to make this comment, is that you've got way too many little pieces of pixie dust in a complete and total straight line or slightly curved line. And you're gonna probably have to go back in there and erase a whole bunch of them so that you don't have this look of a straight line. I think that you've clustered these really cool shapes into just a specific area. And I think that you did that because the blue was glowing so much. And this would have been better if it was a bit more random. All right, do we have hands for Fatima? Shane? Okay, this is great. The timing is good, the arc is good. The transparency and blur on the actual cloud itself is really good. What's missing?
Magic.
Yep, the magic. So, you know, if I stop this, like you don't have any magic at all. There's no pixie dust at all in here. So my critique would stop and I would say, okay, you got to finish this. Now go back and do a pass of white and blue pixie dust, just like we talked about. Right? Were you planning on doing that?
Yep.
Yeah, so go back and do that. I'll give you a temporary grade right now. And as long as, do you have it, are you working on it right now?
Yeah, I tried a few passes, but it didn't work out.
So you're just gonna have to draw all those little pieces of confetti and just put it in the late folder, right? So you're looking good. I think that you're off to a great start here. Keep everything that you've got, but now go back in and put some white and some blue and some purple pixie dust on here, just like we had talked about. Everything else looks okay.
Okay.
The foundation looks okay. You can keep the perspective in there. It's great. I love it. But now go back and put the pixie dust. All right. Got that? Hands for Shane, please. Alex. Okay. All right, so I think that you've got the right amount of everything in there. I think everything is working fine. But go back in and take the transparency down on your guide clouds. I think it's overriding your aesthetic just a little too much. And I think that once again, I see those brush strokes in there. I can see what you're doing, especially like right here, you know, brush, 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 brush. So go back in there and take the transparency down, take the blur up. I don't think that you're going to be able to repair this by erasing, but you could go through this whole thing. You've got probably 4 or 5 seconds worth of animation. And the idea would be is to smudge it. You know, you take your little smudge tool and you just rub it with your smudge tool, or you take your kneaded eraser and just kind of brush it down a little bit. I think it's all there, but I'm just seeing too many digital brush lines. And I think that it's the blue and the periwinkle are bright enough that we can't see your pixie dust. I think your pixie dust is working, but it's just being overridden by the cloud behind it. Once again, you know, I don't think that I'll ever change my approach now of starting out with using that guide cloud. I think that's really important. But get into Toon Boom and now just use the guide cloud as a guide and don't rely on it so much. Just make it a faint little impression in the background. Kind of like the lighter colors of the aurora behind me and my Zoom window. I think that you also might want to go back and do a warm red hot red pass of the pixie dust in there, just a few. Don't overkill it or anything. But yeah, take the transparency down, take the blur up on the cloud, and maybe add in some, you could add in some extra blue pixie dust and some red too. That might help it. All right, do we do hands for Alex? Hands for Alex, everybody. All right, Justin. Justin, I don't know if your video is playing. I don't know if your video uploaded correctly. There's a thumbnail. Let me refresh my screen. Well, that'll do it. Okay, this is great. The cloud is there. The cloud feels like just a lot of real tiny little pieces of pixie dust, and that's good. That's what you're using the cloud for, is that you're drawing thousands of little pieces of confetti all in a very quick, very short period of time. That's the whole purpose. And you're using it as a guide to where you're going to actually draw the pixie dust. So just let me pause this for a second. Yeah, this looks really great. I think that you could use a little bit more variety of shapes in there. But I think this is a really, really great pass here. Justin, are you on microphone?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening.
So I'm just gonna go a couple of frames here at a time. Yeah, I think that you could use some exploding stars like we talked about last week. And I think that you could use just a little bit more variety of heavier shapes, little open circle parts. But I think that for the most part, it's there. I think it looks really good. I'm going to just go back up here. I forgot to do this for Alex. So Alex, I'm just going to go back for a second. Alex, this is submitted to the spring show. And what I'll do is if I see you submitting one that's even better, I'll turn this one off and turn the other one on. Okay. All right,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's fair, right? So now it's out there. Now you're like, oh no, Billy just submitted this file that isn't quite as beautiful as you want it to be. So do a little extra repair on it and I'll switch them out. There's a little bit of artistic encouragement for you. Yeah, Justin, this looks really great. Yeah, looks really great. Justin, are you using 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720?
I think it's 1920.
Yeah, I think it's 1920, and it feels that way, and that's good. Get used to working with the larger screen sizes. Yeah, it looks really great.
Well, I set it as a default to whatever my actual computer monitor screen is. So.
Well, no, it's not your screen. It's the default settings in Toon Boom. When you start a new file, if you choose 1920 by 1080, that's what you get. That's
Yeah,
just.
I set it to be the same file or the same size as my actual
Right.
monitor.
You just keep it that way. It's fine. It feels good. All right, you. Okay. Alex, what's the first thing I'm going to say? Alex. No. Justin, what's the first thing I'm going to say? Okay.
I
Mark,
think
what's
the
the first
worm
thing?
is probably going to be. what,
What's the,
what my idea
what's the
would
first
be.
thing I'm gonna say?
Worm.
Yep. I know you're there. I saw you a little earlier.
Yeah.
You use the guide cloud. It's there, but I think that you didn't spread your pixie dust out enough.
Okay.
It just looks like a worm. It looks like a caterpillar that's trailing behind your orb. It needs to spread out. It needs to disperse.
Okay.
And
I'm
I
not
think
happy with my homework because I tried 3-4 times different pixel dust, but I still don't get really happy with the work. So I will redo it.
so. Let me just do this. So remember that we'll just your thing is working here, right? But I think that what you want to do is you want to spread the pixie dust out a little bit. So let it spread out, like about like this, and it trails away. So that's one thing. And this is just a guide, right? These lines are not art lines. That if this is your orb and it's going this way, that this thing should be spreading out all the way down here. And then all of that stuff should be falling. So, and I don't see that. So as we go frame by frame here, I think that you've got the pixie dust in there. It's on the trail, but it's not falling. It needs to fall. I think that I must have said that 44 times in my demo, that it's the pixie dust has to fall. If you draw 100 little pieces of sparkling magic, that they have to fall. There's a little, the gravity has to act on them. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to say, this is going to the spring show, but now you really should fix it and replace this so that a better version will appear in the show. There's a little bit of pressure on you, right? So I think that what you can do here to quote unquote adjust this is, and I think that you can keep everything that you have, but I think that you just got to go back and do another pass so that everything that you're drawing is falling, right? It has to fall. It has to sparkle. It has to look like magic. My guess is it would take you about an hour to get the rest of it to fall. Okay? All right. Everybody, put your wet fat flippers together for you. All right, Sharon. Okay, this looks really great. My first impression is that the pixie dust is sparkling. The second impression is that you could use a little bit more variety of color. Right, Sharon, are you here?
Hello?
Yes, okay. So a little bit more variety of shapes, a little bit more variety of color. And then the third impression is that I think that it could spread out just a little bit more. Keep everything that you have. But I think like right there, like you've got the idea, but it's just really tight. It's just really tight on the cloud. So just do another pass with a couple of really hot and cool colors. And also at the same time, get the pixie dust to spread out just a little bit. I'm gonna do the same thing here.
Okay.
Add to the spring show, and now the pressure's on you to actually adjust it a little bit more. I think that what you've got is great. It's really nice, but I think that you just need to adjust it just a little bit to make it absolutely wonderful.
Okay.
All right, hands for Sharon Wong. All right, so let me go to page 2. Mark.
Hello.
Two more. Okay, I don't mind those exploding stars like we talked about last week. I think that everything is kind of faint. Yeah, I think you're handling the cloud correctly, right?
Yeah.
You've got a nice aesthetic there. You've got this pixie dust happening. But what I think that's did you do the exploding stars in a different color altogether?
No, they're the same color.
Yeah,
All the pixie dust is the same color.
it's all the same color. So there's not that many of them. And what you can do is you can use the paint bucket tool to repaint all the exploding stars a different color. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just use in Toon Boom, just go to the paint, repaint. It's right here. So when you're in Toon Boom, it's the paint, repaint right there. And that's the only way it'll work, is using that tool. And then just go back in there and pick a different color for every little part of your exploding stars, and then take the transparency to half, because the exploding star, because what you've got is really subtle. It's really kind of nice. I think that you could probably put a little bit more blur on your cloud, but because the exploding stars are so bright, they're overriding everything, and there's not that many of them. You could just kind of repaint them and then put a transparency on them. I think that you probably need just a little bit more pixie dust. I think that it's there. I think you could just use a little bit more.
Do you think the pixie dust is too small? Because it looks a lot bigger on my full screen than on this little like Zoom recording, like tiny screen.
No, I don't think it's too small. I think you just need more of it.
Okay.
Like especially when we were talking about the first couple of passes. Remember, go back and look at my recording. You want a more density of pixie dust following the actual orb itself.
Okay.
That's the thing that's spitting out the magic. And so you've got stuff trailing. You've got stuff that's a good 3 or 4 inches behind it, but there should be a heavier density here. Be careful when you're doing that the idea of spread out doesn't go away, and that you would be creating a worm. Don't create a worm, but I think you need more pixie dust following behind it. I also think that you can go in there and paint your orb a completely different color and then treat it with a glow. Definitely treat it with a glow.
Okay.
Yeah, but definitely and it's very subtle. It's very good, but the idea is that I think you just need to finish it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay.
How about that? All right, hands for Mark, please. Hands. All right, one more here. Javon. So I saw you come in. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so what I see is actually working pretty well. You've got an interesting position and movement on this. I think that it's just really faint.
Yeah, I was thinking about adding some color.
Say it again.
I said I was thinking about adding like color.
Yeah, I think that you should. And I think that I don't see that little glow that we talked about. Like everyone in your class is getting in trouble for having a glow, the little trailing cloud.
The cloud.
But I think that you need it in there.
Okay.
I also, so yeah, your pixie dust is really small, and there's no way to like zoom in on it,
Right.
but I think that you want to adjust it so that there's more contrast and some more colors in there.
Okay.
It's looking good. I think you just need to finish it. I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, now it's in the spring show, but
Yeah.
it needs a little bit more love.
All
Thank
right.
you, Javon. Hands for Javon.
Thank you.
All right, and Mark, I'm adding yours to the spring show too. So now you're under pressure to repair yours.
Oh boy.
Yep, I think that's a really great thing here in the Zoom digital world. Like already it's all right. So the one thing that is not here is that I am not like standing behind you so that I can show you this. So that I can show you the preliminary marks that I made on the work that was right there. I gave you your critique. If you're interested and you're curious, there's no grade book, week by week, day by day, in the classes that are supposed to be on ground. You've got a really good feeling for the grade I just gave you. The word great is usually in the B category. If I'm saying that this is absolute professional quality, then you're done. Then you got an A. If you need adjustments, that's probably in the B- or C+ range. No one who presented today failed. None of these are failing. A few of you did not present, and you should present for partial credit. And if you are presenting for partial credit, it would be inconceivable. It would be inappropriate for me to fail you if you're presenting work, even if it's a couple weeks late. So just keep that in mind. There's 4 or 5 of you who still need to present. Got it? Got it. And if you're dying to know, then just email me at my Yahoo and I can respond right away. All right, so we're going to take a break. Okay, I'm back, everybody. So I'm just looking at the notes in the chat area, and it looks like a couple of people were commenting on each other's work. That's great. And I think that, yes, thank you, Paul. Someone was mentioning the mushroom is cute. So I think Justin was talking about that. So someone was saying that the little mushroom is cute. And I didn't comment. I think that it's a really good idea, but imagine this. The mushroom pops open, and as it pops open, it leaves a trail of pixie dust. It creates a little cloud of pixie dust that falls. A little flower, the little flower comes up, and then a little pixie dust, and then the little mushroom pops up. That might be really cool. And then in the world of art, things sometimes look better in groups of 3. So do a little flower like right here, and then the mushroom that's right here, and then do like something else over here, because you got that little background. All right. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to start our tornado. And if you were watching in the background, you might have seen that I was looking at the project file that I have open already. And so let me explain it. I think that what I'd like to do is explain my project file. And it kind of looks daunting and mysterious and a bit overwhelming at first, but I'm going to explain each part of it. And then as much time as we have, I'll try to walk you through a organized demo of how to put it together. This is not due until 2 weeks from now. So this is due 2 weeks from today. And again, I don't think that I really carefully planned out exactly enough that each project or whatever, that there's a big project due at progress 1 grade, and that there's a huge project due at midterm, and then another huge project due at progress 2. I don't care. I think that what I'm looking for is consistency and improvement in your details, and the ideas of getting some of the principles of animation in there, especially timing and spacing, for sure. I don't think that anything that we do is going to have anticipations or squash and stretch. So, you know, it's the animators, you don't have to worry. It's mostly timing, spacing, and all the rules of art for aesthetics and everything. All right, so I'm gonna do my little demo here. All right, so this project file is, it's good to start with. It's good to take a look at this and kind of understand where you should be at least by next week. So let me walk you through a couple of things. We're doing a tornado and we're doing lightning. We're doing a little bit of dust, if you can handle it down here. We're doing clouds that are moving around in a counterclockwise fashion. And we're doing debris that's coming up into the camera. Okay, everyone all right? Again, if you look at the outline for our class and then you start, you know, trying to put things together and saying, oh, I want to do explosion in this project as well, you could do that. If you, one of the very first variations I had done on the tornado here was that I had everyone draw a perspective grid, and then I had a trail where the tornado was actually moving through 3D space. And that was fine. I think that I like this version better here because it allows you to play with a more game-oriented, ominous kind of effect rather than being just pure cinematics. And that's fine. So let me just jump over here for just a second. The thing that I was just talking about was in our effects board, like that one right there, that blue one that rides my board. So let me just find it. I should have had this up for you. So this one's really good. I like this one here. And there's a couple of reasons why I like this. The first reason why I like this is that in the world of cinema, any kind of tilted horizon or tilted camera adds tension. It adds obvious visual tension. This is moving a little bit too fast for my taste, but I like the contrast of the black against the blue and the turquoise against the lighter turquoise and the light blue. I am not convinced that if a tornado was hitting the ground and just causing all kinds of damage to the ground, that those pieces of wood and trees and shrubbery and everything would be circling with the rotation of the tornado. And you can see that here. And the little particles down there are circling with the wind. So what that does is it creates a weightlessness about them. Those little pieces of black pencil paintbrush work, in my eye, are appearing to be very light. If they had any weights to them at all, they would move away from the core of the tornado. Does that make sense? And they would fall. They would fall to the ground. So, and this is, you know, this is fine for an in-game tornado, something's going on in the background or whatever. Let's take a look at one of these. So I haven't seen all of these. You know, this is very cinematic. This is kind of what we're looking at today. It doesn't loop very well. It could be just part of something. Tornadoes can be whatever color you want. This one's red. So let's take a look at this one. Now this one's moving clockwise. If anyone ever grew up in the Midwest or has ever seen a tornado, low pressure zones always move counterclockwise. And so because this is moving clockwise, it doesn't feel, at least in my mind, it doesn't feel as extraordinary or extra earthly. It just looks a little artistic, if you will. Let's take a look at this one. This is a fire tornado. It doesn't look like it's moving, but that could be cool. You could do the ghost of hell tornado, right? So this one I think that I've seen before. You know, there's some cool things. So there's some cool things going on there. It's a very short cycle, so there's probably only 12 or 16 different frames in there. And it looks like this one might have been done in Maya and Unity together, a little Photoshop up there. You know, so that one's good. All right, so we're doing our research, right? We're doing our reference work right now. We're getting, and always when you're doing anything in art, you always want to do a bunch of research, a bunch of reference, not only to kind of figure out what you want to do, but like when we do our smoke for the tornado, you definitely want to do a ton of research about the shape of this, whatever it is you're drawing. And so you're doing that too. You're studying things that are moving, but you're also trying to parse out what the particular frames of that thing looks like. So let's just take a look. Let's go find my blue one. Actually, let's look at this one right here. You know, to me, I think that it's okay. I think that it's got like 12 or 14 drawings in it. No, maybe a little more. It's probably got 18 images in it. It is cycling. It's green. So again, you could pick whatever color you want for your tornado. There's a couple of other things that we want to do here. We want to look at the horizon. The horizon is set. There is a perspective, so we can see that there is a circular motion. And on the ground plane, the circular motion is clockwise. And then in the upper part, it's counterclockwise. So there is perspective in this, and it's good. I like it. If you were going to present this to me, you would probably get a A-, a B+, something like that. I like that there's a different variety of little spinning clouds around the core. I like that you can see clouds on the core, right on that little funnel shape, right on that cone shape. There are units of green and darker green and white that are rotating on the core. But then there are little tiny bits of ribbons that are rotating really close to it. And then there are bigger ones that are rotating. This is what we're going for. You know, this thing right here is really fun, right? I don't think I've seen this before. I'm going to add that to our board. Remember, you're invited to the board. This board is in the discussion area of our class. So I don't think that you would have the concentration to draw all of these white lines spinning as a vortex or tornado or something. There's just too many of them. This is something that's definitely generated in Maya or Unity, probably Unity. But the thing is that there's probably only 10 frames here. But it would be just like, it would be crazy nonsense to try to track all of this if you were drawing it. So this is an example of something that's really cool. There's a change in perspective that's great, but let's let's just kind of not look at that one so much. All right, so let's find the blue one that I use for my main reference. Oops, I went backwards. All right, let me make sure I'm on my board. Yep, okay. All right, so we just looked at this one. So this is good right here. This one right here is good for just kind of looking at how much detail you could put into a tornado. This kind of looks like more of an explosion, this one right here. And it doesn't look like that there's Mother Nature involved in this one as much. The one up here, this one right here, looks very painterly. It looks very, this one right here, very illustrative. There's a high tension wire. There's a real sense of danger, but there's so many details in this one. I think that it would be just crazy to try to put in motion. Unless Guillermo del Toro was going to give you hundreds of $1,000s and months and months and months to do the effect. We're going to try to get ours done in 2 weeks. All right, so, and I like this one. Let's take a look at this one in another tab. So this one's good. It's got a little wiggle in the core. It's moving left and right. It's cycling. There's debris. To me, it looks like the upper part is moving clockwise. I prefer yours to move counterclockwise. The colors are fine. I like the pinks and the blues and the light blues. I think that's fine. It doesn't feel like a dangerous tornado. It looks just like a cool effect. All right, let me find the blue one I posted. And it looks like I keep clicking on this blue fire. I really like that blue fire. All right, and the reason that it's down here, it's probably one of the first things that I saved. I don't know why my redraw here is so slow. This one is interesting. I've demoed this one before. Some of the reasons why I would not like this one is that I think your camera is just a little too close to it. There's a lot of great shapes in there, and I think it's fun, and it's definitely a really professional effect. But I want something so that we can see a little bit more perspective.
Hello, good night, everybody. I'm almost setting up to bed, but I decided to show this problem I made. Where shall I start?
All right, so that one's okay.
So what kind of scale are we looking for?
Well, a tornado is definitely going to be a couple of 100 feet tall.
Yeah, I'm watching like the supercell tornado videos on YouTube of just towns getting obliterated and whatever. But I guess my issue is that it would be so slow that we would have to draw so many frames to get that motion.
Right.
To get that sense of scale. So I don't know if it's
So
like worth doing that kind of work.
This one will answer your question. This is the one that I like.
The issue is it's really hard to see well, I guess I could pull up the board myself, but it's hard to see the frame rate is really choppy on Zoom. So it just looks kind of like a mess.
Right, so let me do this. I'm going, oops. I don't know why it won't let me do this. So, you know, one of the things that I'm gonna do this for just a second. All right, let's look at this setup here. So I'm gonna color code things. All right, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to come back to the position that I was at, and I want to make sure that I'm turning on the right things. I've used this little demo a bunch of different times. All right, so there we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn a bunch of this stuff off. And the first thing that we're going to do is just talk about a horizon. So in this example here, this drawing layer was just a curved horizon. You can do that if you want. You can make it tilted. In the world of cinema, a tilted camera is called a Dutch angle. And it's called a Dutch angle because in the world of cinema, during the early part of the 20th century, film cameras and film projector equipment was evolving, and the whole process of cinema was evolving, and the idea of directing shots and putting together science and art and science, and rules were being established. And they borrowed a couple of things from German Expressionism, where there was a very graphic, dark, a really crazy, scary look to German Expressionism. And it's beautiful. A lot of people love German Expressionism. A lot of tension with tilted backgrounds and shapes that look like they're falling over. And the world of cinema borrowed from that, except the stupid English people looked at it and didn't say Deutsches like they should have, and they were trying to say Deutsches, which is German, and the stupid English translation was Dutch. And so instead of saying Deutsches, they were saying Dutch, and they were not making fun of or borrowing or referencing Dutch Expressionism. They were supposed to be talking about Deutsches Expressionism. So in the world of cinema, a Dutch angle is supposed to be a Deutsches angle. So whatever you want to do, draw your perspective grid. Just set it up lightly. Just set up the horizon, get yourself some lines so that you know that each one of these squares represents a perspective that's in the upper atmosphere and a perspective that's on the ground plane. And somewhere in the middle, towards a focal point, establish that you have a circle inside this square. Everyone okay with this idea? So that you draw the perspective grid and you set up what is apparently a square. And then you draw a line right across the horizon, the vertical and the horizontal, and you set up the oval that is the circle in perspective. This all by itself takes a little knack. Just drawing this yellow circle right here for your perspective grid takes a little bit of a knack. This yellow line right here is where the circle in perspective is right at eye level. So all we see of this circle is a straight line. And then you draw another square on the ground plane, which is smaller, and put a circle inside it. So that it is in perspective as well. All right, and then in this setup here, I also included a larger blue square on the grid. because what it is doing is, now this is helping guide you to, oops, it's not picking up my color, to putting in the clouds that are going to move really slowly around the top of the tornado itself. So this one is where the top of the core of the tornado is. This one is where it hits the ground plane. If you look over here, you can see that I'm dividing up the center core of the tornado into little bits so that there's a larger conical shape up on the top, and it narrows in the middle, and it can widen out towards the bottom if you really want. But I think it's more interesting to stay with a setup where there's more of a funnel shape to the actual tornado itself. All right, everyone okay? All right, and then what I've done here is I've taken my blue pencil, and I've kind of plotted out where these clouds, these little bits of debris clouds, are going to be in my layout. So this perspective layer right here could actually technically be called a layout. So, and then what I want to do is I want to explain what I did over here. So this right here is the camera view looking down the center core of the tornado. One of the things that you want to do is you want to get this rotation that is counterclockwise, and you want to plot these upper clouds and the clouds that go around the center core of this thing, and you want to keep track of them. So this is looking down the core itself. Right here, you can see that I've got my whole project set up as 32 frames, which is just 16 drawings on 2s, right? And so what I've done is worked on the factor of timing where, see these little orange shapes right here that look like a spiral? There's only 4 of them. So if I wanted to get anything moving around the very center of the core, I could get them moving around the center of the core with just 4 drawings. And then I took a square, a line, and divided it perfectly perpendicular, and then again, so that I have 8 different parts around the center here. And you can see that I numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, so that it is moving in a counterclockwise fashion. So that's my second set of timings. The first is 4, the second one is 8. And then I have another one out here that is 12. And 12 doesn't go into 32, it doesn't factor as well. So this one I use sparingly because we would technically be looking at a factor of either 2 or 4 or 8 or 16 or 32 are the factors. And if you don't understand what that means is that something could be cycling 2 frames, but that we just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But something could cycle 4 frames. So in other words, if this cloud right here is going all the way around it in 4 frames, it's going very quickly, it's going to go around the volcano itself, the tornado itself, a total of 8 times. So let me move this over here. So if something is moving around the center core of the tornado with 2 frames, I don't think that this is going to read. It's just going to flip back and forth. But if it's moving around the core of the tornado on 4 frames, like these little orange guys, then you would have to copy and paste it a total of 8 times to get to the factor of 32 frames cycle. If something is moving around the core 8 times, then that means it's going to move around the core. You'd have to copy and paste it 4 times. If something is cycling with a total of 16 frames, like these clouds in the upper atmosphere, then you could copy and paste it twice. Or if you wanted to animate something straight away, like if the clouds are moving all the way around really long, then this would just cycle once. So this is the factor right here. And I want to stop for just a moment. Does that make sense to everyone? Anyone have any questions about that? No questions. Okay. Remember that this is being recorded, so you can always go back and look at it. All right, so just remember, again, this is the top-down version, the top-down view of the tornado itself. This little pizza shape is what we're going to draw as the actual shape of the tornado itself. All right, so let me go back over here. In this layout, I've just added a little indication that lightning can come from the edge and strike the ground. If I was thinking about it carefully enough, the lightning could also come down and strike the center core of the tornado. A whole big flash of light could come on and off, like that there was lightning behind it. There's all kinds of things that we can do. And we could talk about the flashing of light in a shorter project related to the bomb. But remember that you can and probably should add some sort of lightning to this. Lightning can happen for just 4 frames. So if you have a total of 32 frames in this cycle, then somewhere in the middle, like you can just have 3 or 4 frames of lightning so that it doesn't continually flash. That when the cycling for your animation is happening, that you don't have this lightning going flash, 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 because then it would look more like a cartoon. You might only want 1 bit of lightning to happen over this the course of the cycling for 32 frames, and even that might just be a little obvious if you pardon the expression. All right, so let's just take a look at the layout. There's nothing on here that is too hard to understand. So remember now, what I just did here is I turned the second part of my layout on. And in the second part of the layout here, what I've done right here is I've just created a nice twisting conical shape that I want to work with. And I put it over here because I just wanted to study how the perspective looks in the upper part of the tornado. And then, it's not really hard, or you're not going to go into a lot of technical or aesthetic problems with the circle in perspective here. But remember that if this stuff is moving that direction for counterclockwise, then down here it's going to be moving this way, right? So the perspective grid is just a little different. All right, so now what I did in this one is I added in these little blue lines here, which is actually called black in my project. And what I've done is I've just kind of taken what I want to be more of the amorphous shape. So I didn't want this thing to be locked in as just a cone of smoke or clouds or debris or something. I definitely want to animate these little ribbons here. And I tried to borrow the overall shape. So if you look at this, actually what I'm going to do is add another layer here. And I'm just going to call this 5 for some stupid reason, add and close. And I'm going to drag my 5 layer right on top of this drawing. Toon Boom is misbehaving here for a second. Hold on. All right, I don't know why it's not letting me move this. So I'm just going to draw it on here. All right, so what I'm trying to get at here is that what I'm doing is I'm emulating this shape, and you can see that I didn't really stay true to the edges of that shape. I kind of made a variation of it as I was planning it out. But this is what I would consider just an interpretation of this. And now you'll see this when I turn this on again, is that one of the first things you may want to do is take this shape, this conical shape, and drive a center core down the middle of it, almost like the tornado had a line of action, and then just animate this shape. I'm going to draw this shape over here so that in a total of 16 drawings, hold on a second. I want it to match a little more closely. So that in a total of 16 drawings on twos, that this shape of the tornado right here is going to animate from this position into this position, and then back again. So it's going to animate, if this right here is drawing number 1 right there, then it's also drawing number 31 or whatever. It's drawing number 33. So that it animates from this blue shape, and this blue arc is going to animate all the way over to the red position, and this blue shape right here is going to animate all the way over to the red position, but it's only halfway. So that means that it would be at that position around frame 16. And then it's going to animate from the red back into the blue. So it's got to go. So just follow my little drawing here. I'm just going to pick one little point here on the edge of this arc. So it's going to animate from this position all the way over to this position on frame 16. And then it's going to animate all the way back to frame 31, because if it's on twos, this frame 31 is going to animate for frame 31 and 32, and then 33 would technically be frame number 1. And so the opposite happens down here. The blue is going to animate to the red this way from frame 1 to frame 16, and then it's going to animate back to frame 31. All right, does that make sense? So that's the first thing that you would do, is set up the animation of the core. And you wouldn't use this really for anything except just to guide the actual motion of how that thing is twisting back and forth. All right, does that make sense? Anyone have questions about that? Okay. All right, so now you can see in this example here that what I've done is taken liberties almost and kind of just drawn in a center core that is just pinched in from it a little bit. So it's not abiding by the whole parameters of this thing, because what I think that I wanted to do was have the ribbons moving around it, the ribbons of smoke working around it. So that was just my logic on that one. In this layer here, you can see that now on this, my 6-1 layer, is that I've got, and so now I've drawn these little ribbons right here. Actually, let me go backwards just a frame here. So this one, you can see that I've animated just a slight differential of the core moving around, going from left to right. So that is me doing this thing that I just showed you here, just with this very simple shape right there. And I've also started adding in where I wanted to track these little ribbons of clouds. Again, I'm following this model right here where I'm counting 8 of them. And if I'm counting 8 of them, then I know that on this layer right here, let me actually eyedropper this so I get the right color. Nope, that's not the right color. Yep, okay. All right, so what I mean by this is that I'm on frame 1 right here, and I'm drawing this little ribbon. Now, what I've done is I've drawn this ribbon so that it's kind of borrowing from those shapes right there. One thing that you could do is you could use your paintbrush and just draw in a pastel charcoal ribbon if you want, and use it as a template. You could use it as the cloud like we just did for our pixie dust. But what we need to do here is I need to make sure that if I draw this cloud right here, that it is going to be like in this position right here for drawing number 1. And then they overlap each other. So in my key over here, this little ribbon that I've drawn right here is basically right here. But then I've got to animate it in 8 frames going all the way around. So drawing number 2 would be like this, drawing number 3, drawing number 4, 5, 6. Hold on, that was on 2s. Hold on a second. Drawing number 2 would be here. Drawing number 3 would be here. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And if I elongate them just a little bit, they would overlap each other. And so what this does is it shows me that drawings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, that drawings number 4 and 5, I might not see them because of the shape of the tornado. I see the end of the ribbon right here on drawing number 3, and then it goes away for drawing number 4 and drawing number 5. And in drawing 6, I might only see this little bit right here, and then here comes 7, and then 8 is overlapping 7 and 1, and then I can get an 8-frame cycle, but I got to remember that I might not see drawings 4 and 5. All right, so again, this is the top-down view of the tornado. So in this drawing layer right here, I'm going to animate this little ribbon shape here. So it moves just a little bit right here. And then it continues to move around. Now, one of the things that I did with this one is I narrowed the shape of the tornado, the actual shape of the tornado, so that now when I go back and look at it, I will actually see that the narrowness, I will see a little bit of 4 and 5. So this key right here will help you figure out where the timing of a ribbon goes. So once again, let's just follow this ribbon right here. So it starts to go around, and here it comes, it's up on the left. And in this example here, I didn't want it to just go around counterclockwise. It actually went up. And so I was following kind of a different thing where the wind is actually moving up. So in this example, if I play the recording, you can see that the ribbon actually appears to move up. You can do it either way. You can have it just circle round and around and around, or I had it going up so that this little piece here, instead of just cycling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it actually rises a little bit and it goes all the way up to the top. All right, so let's take a look at the next little bit of it. All right, so with this one, let me identify where we were at here. Okay, so this is where you may want to use a brush. And so this section right here is on 3s. And so I'm drawing this blue thing here. So let me pick up my blue and I'm going to use a paintbrush. And I'm going to, so it's still on the dusty pastel. And so this is where you might get away with using a cloud. And then I'm going to go to the next frame. And for some reason, this one's moving backwards. I don't know why I did that. Oh, no. Okay. So what, instead of drawing a ribbon, you can just use your pastel brush and draw in just the shape, the placement, the placeholder for it. Right? And I'm following my perspective grid. So it's going deeper into perspective. And this one disappears. And then it starts to come back again. So this is exactly what we were talking about, frames 4 and 5, or those frames behind it disappearing. And then I have another one right here. So let's just follow the blue that I just drew right there. So see the blue that I just drew? It's circling around. All right, and then what I would want to do is I would want to start another one. So I want to draw a little ribbon of clouds going around the tornado, 20, 30 of these little puppies. So let's start this one like right here. And it's just in a little bit, but it's going to be moving a little slower. And it's also starting on a different frame of it. Remembering that these guys are mostly on 3s. It looks like there's a little bit of 2s in there as well. So then I'm going to draw it back over here. I turn my onion skin on so you can see it. And then this one might be behind it, but I want to put just a little placeholder there so I know it's there. And then this one I might want to put a little placeholder right here so I know it's there. And then I'm going to have it swing out just a little bit. And then going forwards, I'm going to swing out just a little bit more. And I'm counting. I need to get 3 or 4 more drawings in here before it cycles. And now I'm getting in trouble because this is where the first one was. So let's see if I can speed it up really fast and get it to cycle twice. And then let it go away right here. And now we have one more drawing that I'm going to put right here. And then we're back at the beginning right here. So if I go, I'm going to go backwards a frame and I'm going to extend this one out just a little bit. And I'm going to go forwards in time and it's going to catch up really fast right here. So I'm going to extend this smoke, this little ribbon a little bit to the left. I'm going to go backwards a frame. I'm going to extend this one a little further. And then I'm going to go forwards in time. So it should look like it's going around the tornado. So I'm just looking at this section that I drew right here. And remember that this is Mother Nature. It's not complete and total, absolute illusion of life, principles of animation, Disney kind of thing. If you have a little bit of variety in there, it'll work. So once again, let's count the forgot what layer I was drawing on. All right, so let's go to this. We're on this top layer right here again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw another example, but I'm going to count my drawings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So in this example here, now instead of 4 and 8 and 16, I actually had a thing in here where that's 12 is right here, if you can see the number 12. And the reason for this is because you can have things disappear. When the little ribbons of cloudy smoke stuff go behind here, it might disappear for 1, 2, or 3 frames. So the idea here is that on whatever layer you want to call the top, let's just start one like right here. I'm going to just start that one right there. I'm going to go ahead into the keyframe, the next keyframe, and I'm going to, so I want them to overlap a little bit, and I'm counting 12. So this is going to go around in 12 frames. So that's 2, this is 3, and the thing that you have to make sure of is that the first thing that you did was animate the wiggle. So you have to make sure that you're not drawing a element that is in front of and behind the tornado at the same time. So just follow your little thing. So this one's disappearing. This one, it's gone. This one, it's gone. This one, it's gone. This one, it's gone. And I might see just a little bit of it right here. Then this one, it's coming out just a little bit. And what I've done is I've established my keyframe so that all I have to do is hit the G key on the keyboard. That's all I have to do. So I'm going to draw this one right here. I'm going to draw this one right here. And this is the last frame in the cycle. This is drawing number 12. And then if I hit the G key again, it takes me to the first frame, and I'm lined up pretty well. So let's just take a look at the purple brush pastel at speed. So we're just looking at that part right there. Just the little purple that I drew. All right, and you can see it's working. So then the idea would be is to do either on the same layer, and you can get a whole bunch of ribbons of clouds or smoke on the same layer. You can use a different layer for each one of them. Everyone okay? Questions, comments, complaints, conundrums, criticisms, anything that starts with a K sound? All right, so now let's stop the playback. All right, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about a couple other things. All right, I have a couple of layers of clouds, excuse me, clouds on here. All right, so now this one is the debris. And I believe what I did on this layer right here is I created a layout. Deep breath. Everyone paying attention? Everyone sitting up straight? Could pretend you're in some private Catholic school or something. You pay attention. All right, everyone's paying attention. This is my layout for the debris. And so I got a couple of examples of debris layer right here. All right, so I'm going to actually move out my camera just a little bit. All right, that's good. All right, so on this one, I know that this wind down here is spinning around at 185 miles an hour. This wind right here is going 188 miles an hour. It's like, it's going really fast. It's going so fast that if I wanted to animate the actual ribbons of smoke going counterclockwise around it, that it would just be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I don't want to do that. I mean, you could do that. It's just, that's going to be really fast. That could take you 10 minutes to draw all of the final smoke and ribbons and dust just going around it. You're done. But what's happening is it's kicking up debris. Just everyone nod so I know you're paying attention. It's kicking up pieces of wood and fence and cows and tractors, okay? And when it does that, it sends them up on an arc and then down, and they bounce a couple of times, okay? And so on this layout, what I've done is, and I'm just gonna do this, over here. The principle of, oh, hold on. So the idea is that if the debris is bouncing, that it starts from the ground, the tornado rips it up, it moves fast, and then it slows down when it gets to the top of the arc. And then it starts to speed up again as it hits the ground. And then it bounces, and then it slows again towards the top of the arc. And then it speeds up again. And then it hits the ground again. And then there's maybe 3 positions here. And then it finally lands right there. So then you could count these frames. So use this as a template for how any little piece of debris here moves. This is frame 1, frame 3, frame 5, frame 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25, 27, 29, 31, 33, 35. And you do this a couple of times. You do a piece of debris falling on the right, and then you do one falling in the back, and then you do a couple on the left, and you can see that I've done a whole bunch of them. And as soon as you understand how to get a piece of debris that looks just like this to move like a bouncing ball, it's got to slow in to the top, SI, or ease in to the top. It's the same thing. And then it's going to slow into it, and then it's going to slow out. So this is slowing in and then easing out. This is easing into the upper position and then easing out. And so you do this a couple of times. And then this one, you see this green line right here? This one, just every once in a while, it kicks up something big. And then the first position for something big is right here. And then the second position for something big is here, but it's moving in perspective. The third drawing is here, and then the fourth drawing is here, and the fifth drawing is here, and the sixth drawing is right here. It's huge. Or you could have one come right at the camera. So you start one here, and then it comes up, and it gains momentum. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the next frame is that the debris actually hits the camera. So debris is flying around all over the place. So let's take a look at the debris layer. And let's just get it to move. So you can see that I've drawn, watch this black one right here. Watch this black one right there. It comes up into camera and goes off to the left. All right, let's keep, so we're just watching the debris layer. So all of these little circles, all these little dots are following my arcs, right? And so that's important in order to get this work. So now I'm just gonna hit my key, my G key, a bunch of times. And I'm gonna turn the layout off so that we can just see all those little particles in there. So each one, oh, I'm gonna turn my onion skin off too. All right, so you can see that there's debris down there, but they're all, yeah, I think I drew on the wrong layer. All right, does everyone understand that little bit? So you're layering things together. You're putting this together with, the first thing that you do is animate the core, moving from left to right over the course of 16 drawings, 32 frames. That's the very first thing that you do, is animate this core. Then the second thing you do is you plot out, just like I did over here, a graph for how this works, a key for how this works. If you want to animate something moving around the core of the tornado on 4 different drawings, or 8 drawings, or 16 or 12, you're welcome to play around with any different kind of math. Remembering that when I did this 12 right here, that it doesn't match the factor quite perfectly. 20, it would, if you multiply it twice, it goes to 24. And then you would have a total of 8 frames where it would jump and it would not cycle smoothly. But this is a tornado, so stuff does happen kind of abruptly. All right, and then back to debris number 2. I have debris on a couple of different layers. So I didn't want to put all the little pieces of wood or anything. And remember too that when you're doing this one right here, that it doesn't, this really, as a placeholder, it's just a circle. But this could be a cow. This could be a tractor. This could be a whole house. The tornado is violent enough that it picked up a Volkswagen and it kicked it right towards the camera. And so you're welcome to, and you should play around with those shapes right there. All right, so let me figure out what this drawing is here. Oh yeah, that's the debris. D1 is a debris coming right towards the camera. So like in this one, you would maybe want to change this one to a house. So get yourself a little graphic right there. Go backwards a keyframe, backwards a keyframe, and then draw the house again. Forwards, oh, go backwards first. Yeah, it's fine. All right, so, and now the house is here. And it's on 2s. And when it's this close to the camera, this should probably be on 1s. You can see that I've put that part on 1s. All right, and then now the house is here. It's in this position. And it is close enough and moving fast enough that it should probably be on 1s, but that's okay. This one is on 1s. All right, so now what we're going to look for, and this is just a placeholder. You know, you can do like all kinds of fun stuff right there. So let's look at this at speed. See the house coming up in front of the camera? All right, so then what you should probably have in place for next week is, just like we talked about, establish your horizon, tilt your camera if you want, that's always a good idea. Set up your perspective grid, animate this core. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give you just a little bit of heads up on the core. So I've created a new layer called the core, and maybe Toon Boom will let me move it this time. Good. All right, so on this core layer right here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give myself a new color. And so this is just a little extra explanation for animating the core. I'm going to copy this one. Just over here, just as a demonstration. All right, and I'm going to also copy the square in perspective, the center lines, just roughly, the circle in perspective, just for this first frame. I'm going to copy the line that goes right down the middle of the core itself. I'm on frame number 1. All right, and remember that it's moving this way and this way, right? It's moving counterclockwise. All right, then I'm going to jump out over to this frame here. Actually, what you could do is you could jump to frame 16 and then in between it, but let's just do it straight ahead. So we know that actually what we'll do here is on frame, what the problem would be is that if I started drawing right now, it would fill in all these frames right here. So what we could do is we could add an empty drawing here. This creates an empty drawing. And on this particular frame, what we're going to do is we're going to reverse the line of action of the center core. And we're going to get it to swing. So this is going to be the entire wiggle. Drawing, and so this upper part isn't going to move around too much. All right, and so the difference here would be is that if I had just started drawing on frame 16, that it would have filled in all these frames between frame number 1 and frame number 2, and you don't want that. So now you can do another in between. You can go to frame, well, if you lay this out going from frame 1 to 16 as a keyframe, your in between, your chart is going to look like, what's this, 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. So it shouldn't, so this should not be frame 16. I'm going to grab it and move it to frame 15. So this should be frame 15. Everything should be an odd number. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. So this should be probably frame 9. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. That should be fine. So 9 is my breakdown position. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. And then 15 is going to go all the way back into frame 31. So the breakdown, stop it. So the breakdown here, you're going to go 15, 17, 19, 21, 23 is going to be your breakdown position, 25, 27, 29. So your breakdown position is, I'm sorry, I should not circle that, is 23 and 9 are your breakdown positions. So go to frame number 9 and then turn your onion skin on, turn it on, and then make sure that your onion skin can see both keyframes. Sorry, you have to do this with your mouse. It's really hard to do the limits of your onion skin with the stylus. Come on, Toon Boom. All right, so now I can see both. And then the in-between for frame number 9 with the correct color, I'm going to create an empty drawing again, and I'm going to do an in-between. And remember, the in-between is like right here. It's right down the middle of those two lines. And then over here, it's right down the middle of those two lines. So do the left and right, but then also do the core. Just always do the line of action so you know. All right, then I'm going to do the same thing over. So what I can do is I can take this element right here and I can either copy and paste it. Toon Boom. So if I copy this, it's not picking up the whole thing here. Hold on a second. I don't know why. I don't know. It's possibly that I did it on a different level and I'm being sloppy or something. All right. So on this last key right here, we're going to go to frame 31. And I'm going to increase my onion skin so I can see all of it. And on this layer here, I'm just going to copy drawing number 1 onto frame 31. I'm going to create an empty drawing and just copy it. So it's okay if it's in the same position. or just, it's moving from right to, I'm sorry, from left to right, back to left. So instead of copying it exactly in the same position for this last key, just nudge it. So you're favoring the position, but it's not quite exactly in the same. That way it won't freeze. That way it won't stop any apparent motion. All right, so that's important right there, is that you're using an empty drawing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to bring my limit back to just about there. And then I'm going to do the other breakdown position here. So remember, we wanted frame 23. And so I want to limit my onion skin just for the keys, so I can see just those two keys. And this always happens. It's always a little funky. Frame 23. And so now you have to remember what we were doing. You were going from the right to the left to the right, back again. So this one's going to look very much like the other straighter tornado. To your center line as well. Oh, and see what I did? I didn't create an empty drawing right there, so it filled it in. So I want to Z this out. All right, so what I want is an empty drawing right there. And then do your drawing number 23. All right, so this is just a traditional way to work with keys. And again, this is giving you just a rough idea of how your core is going to move. So let me just turn a couple of the other things off so you can see it in motion. All right, so we're just looking at this little bit right there. So it's only playing 5 drawings, and you'd have to go back in and do your in-betweens. So the same thing, that you would stop the playback and go here, and you would animate from the purple into the green on, but you would make sure you're going to be on 2, so you should always have an odd number frame. So you're doing frame number 5. So add an empty drawing in between frame number 5. And just do it quickly. You're going from the purple to the green. It's moving one way and the other. All right, so then do the other 2 breakdowns. So that would be frame 19, add a breakdown frame. Remember which way it's going. It's picking up an extra few frames here. Let me limit this. All right, so add an empty drawing. You already did that. Empty drawing from the green into the red. Add an empty drawing. And let's just take a look at it. So that's just the easy way to get the core moving. You can either animate it straight ahead, or you can do it with keys. Once you get the everything set here, like you're going to use a empty drawing here, an empty drawing here, an empty drawing here, and all of these, then you want to go back in and, like, let's say that these are already done right here, that you want to get rid of these 2 empty frames here. So you would say, I'm going to create this drawing. It's going to be on 2s, but you can see what it's doing. It's pushing out this drawing in the timeline. So what you're going to do here in this empty drawing and in this empty drawing is just hit the minus key on the keyboard, and that just removes an empty frame. So once you've got this drawing here, add a frame to it, and then go back into here to the empty drawing and hit the minus key to remove a drawing. And you can hit this one to remove a drawing. And so that way nothing will pop, right? Does everyone understand that little bit? So that's one way to do it, with working from left to right key to key to break down to the, I forget where we drew it. Oh. So you're just moving from one shape of the tornado to the other, and you're going from frame 1 to frame 16 and then back again to frame 31. And frame 31 lasts for frame 31 and frame 32. That keeps everything on twos at 16 drawings all the way around. So yeah, you would have your core moving. Hopefully you would have the debris moving, a whole bunch of them. I mean, think about it. This thing is just devastating the farm. So you should have probably 8 on one side and 8 on the other, and a couple coming up towards the camera. And if something was kicking out and being kicked up by the tornado and going away from the camera, we wouldn't see it. So you don't have to worry about it. You should have the plan for the clouds that are moving in the upper atmosphere. And again, those are moving slower. And you should have the layout. You should have everything ready for next week. Next week, we'll talk about putting the lightning in there. We'll talk about adding a glow to the lightning and a flash of white behind it for a frame. That's just really easy. I haven't done it on this example, but we'll do that next week. Getting that overall timing of the core is really important. All right, questions? Yes, is that a raised hand, Devon?
No.
No, I'm sorry, Devin.
Yeah, it's all good.
Sorry, you can yell at me if you want.
It's fine.
All right, so and then on top of that, remember too that you may want to keep touching up your pixie dust. And that's true for all of the projects that we're working on. If you want to keep adjusting or something, you're more than welcome to do that. As long as it's in the folder, let me just show you. So that's our outline mode. And when I see the discussion folders, if there's anything new, if you post anything new, it'll show up right here. New comments, new posts. So if you put something in the pixie dust folder, right, or the late or missing folder, there'll be a number here, and I'll go to that first. And then because there's no technical week by week grade book, what I do is I keep a record on paper here in my office, and I will make sure that my paper overrides everything. And that when I do progress 1, midpoint, progress 2, final grades, it's based on my detailed grade book and not any, because as soon as I do progress 1 or midpoint or progress 2 or midterm, though I don't see those grades anymore. I mean, I can go find them, but it's not like I see a spreadsheet. There's no thing up here where it says grade book. Right? There is a grade book for Kenyatta College. I work there, they use Canvas, and I can see everything that I've done all semester long there. But for here, I have to go to the roster and figure out what your progress is. And it's just a little roundabout way. So I do everything on paper for the academy.